the Grog Shop and the B-Side Liquor Lounge. We are on, basically we're in Coventry Village. We've been there for almost 28 years. Grog Shop holds approximately 400 people for pretty much predominantly live music. B-Side is like a loungy hangout DJ spot, 250 cap, and we have no food, and we are no longer in business. No, we're coming back.
Sean?
Yeah, and I'm Sean Watterson. I'm one of the owners over at Happy Dog. We're over in Gordon Square. We're 200 capacity upstairs. We're doing live music between 3 and 4 nights a week, and then all the rest of our oddball events like the science talks and the political affairs, world affairs discussions, and trivia.
I know that so many of our listeners are just so excited to hear from you guys, not only to get more information about, what they can expect, as well as, any sort of projected opening dates, but also ways that they can help. We've had a lot of people want to reach out and ask about ways that, they can assist as well moving forward and how to make things the easiest possible for everybody to reopen. So I wanted to start our conversation by talking about the specific challenges that independent music video venues are facing, that other service-based industries are not right now during COVID-19 closures. And that can range from, totally being shut down, like Grog Shop, because there isn't, food available right now, to not necessarily knowing when we're going to be able to reopen. So what do you think is like the top challenge that as an independent small music venue you're facing? Anybody who, wants to start can begin.
Well, for us, we live and die on the events that we host. Even though we do food, so much of what we do depends on the people who come in for the events. And so, I was looking at our calendar in the first 2 months since we closed on March 15th. We had 55 events over 60 days that we couldn't do. So, for us, even though the bar restaurant side of what we do could open, it's at such low capacity compared to what we would normally do, and we rely so much on people who are coming in for the events that when we look at it, for a lot of reasons, it makes more sense to wait than to try and do something, especially if we can't have anybody up on the stage.
I feel like that's a big one because, our clubs are specifically designed to hopefully reach capacity, right? As you're putting out offers and considering who's going to be coming to these shows, you're really keeping in mind a larger number. So, how do you foresee that affecting moving forward? How are you going to be able to still kind of get those numbers and make the money that you need to make in order to have some of these artists still be visiting the venues?
That's big.
Sure.
So it's kind of timely because it's Memorial Day weekend coming up, and traditionally it's a shitty weekend for us. But I'm going to read my schedule. Tomorrow we're supposed to have the record company, sold out. Friday we're supposed to have High on Fire, sold out. Saturday, Me Without You, sold out. Sunday, Elder, which wouldn't have sold out, but it would have done like 300 people, which is really great for us. So I was looking, rewind, February, January. I was like, this is the greatest Memorial Day weekend we've ever had in the history of the Grog Shop. So excited. All that's gone. It's gone to pot. And, obviously it's all relative. We all want to be safe and blah, 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 blah. But fast forward, these shows are now rescheduled for 2021. So realistically, a club like mine who doesn't really, I mean, it's a destination spot at this point. It used to be a local club, that people would just hang out at, but it's really, they come for the big shows. The little shows are great, but they're just supplemental. So if we don't have the big shows, the little shows are great and we appreciate them, but they're not going to keep us afloat. So to see something like that just go away, and it's devastating. Obviously, we do not want to be doom and gloom, but that's not said. Like, what does it mean to have 25, 40, 50 people in the club, each getting 2 beers? And how is that sustainable for us? And obviously, we all talk on a weekly basis and we're trying to find ways and we're trying to be positive, but it's kind of crazy. I just got to say, to look at that schedule and then, and see how far we've come in these past few months, it sucks.
And now I'm like a little more of the obviously of the Grog Shop world,
Yeah.
but also of the Happy Dog world. So Gabe, I'm also really wondering like how this has affected the Bop Stop, because you guys are also a part of the music settlement. So kind of tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys are facing specifically as well. It'll be some of the same, but a little different probably.
Yeah, I mean, a lot is similar. I mean, our model at the Bop Stop, it is a nonprofit model, but I'm one small part of the music settlement. So for the Bop Stop to support itself, about 90% of my annual revenue is earned from our shows, and only about 10% is contributed revenue, which is our grant funding and donor support. So I think financially, my loss in revenue and losing my staff is probably a similar story to a lot of other venues. At the same time, there have been some pieces of this economic recovery plan that have, I think, benefited me maybe more than independent venues. And the example that sticks out is the PPP loans. And those have not been very, I guess, they haven't been great at helping these small venues bring their staffs back. Selfishly, they helped me stay paid because I'm an employee of a much larger organization. So they actually received that loan, and I'm benefiting from a larger organization employing me. So that's the big difference at this point in time. But like the other venues, I have to figure out. We're all going to be changing our business models probably, and we're figuring out how to add additional revenue streams because when it comes down to it, we all need more earned revenue to stay afloat. So.
Sure. And you brought up a good point as well in that, you're still working right now, but a lot of these venues don't have that many employees still working. However, moving on into the future, I know we're still getting a lot of requests at the Grog Shop for booking, looking into, 2021, like you were saying, Kathy. So, has that been difficult also to kind of like think into the future and to still maintain contact with these agents, especially when you don't have the staff right now that you normally would to get back to everybody?
I don't think so. I mean, we're all in the same boat. It's like everybody's dealing with the same shit, which is kind of nice. So people are way nicer and more understanding than they've ever been in the past. And, obviously, it's not just us that are going to get affected. It's the musicians, it's the agents, it's the agencies, like even freaking Live Nation, it's the ticket agencies, that everybody's taking a hit. So it's beneficial to all to make something work. It's like the new normal. I had a meeting today with somebody about doing an outdoor event, and it was a band that would typically command like $2,500 minimum, even to talk to you. And they're like, hey, we just want to keep people working. We want to keep our names relevant. I think we're all looking to do that for the time being while we still can. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, Gabe, you brought up a little bit about the PPP loans, which is kind of like my next question and my next talking point that I want to bring up, and kind of ask, what types of aid are available to independent music venues right now as a response to COVID-19? And have you found that those, the PPP loans or the other sources of perhaps fundraising that you're doing have been working for you or not working for you? and like we can kind of go through that by venue, because it also I think is important to talk about some of the things that you're doing to fundraise so that people can go and support the venues if they want. So Gabe, do you want to start, and then Kathy, and then Sean?
Sure. So the PPP loan definitely helped keep me employed, so I'm grateful for that. But for that, I mean, that's essentially the only aid that we've gotten at this point in time. I because we are a nonprofit, I just in the past month have applied for a lot of new grants that I never even considered in the past. So I mean, that is an avenue that I probably should have explored more of even for the last 5 or 6 years. But even that's tough because the loans and the grants from local, state, federal levels, they're competitive. And at the same time, when people tell me, oh, you're a nonprofit, just apply for a grant, those grant organizations are also tight on funds. A lot of them have redistributed what they're funding or how they're funding. Their grants that the music settlement has gotten aren't even being fulfilled in their full amounts for the remainder of the year. So kind of like how organizations are taking, or I should say workers are taking pay cuts at universities or things like that, these grants are also experiencing the same sort of thing. So yeah, at this point we haven't gotten much relief. Luckily, we do have like a lot of, like the other venues, a lot of really great fans who really are trying to step up in any way that they can. But in terms of the bottom line, we could use more help.
And Kathy?
So we also have gotten the PPP loans. The problem with that loan is it's really not intended for a business like mine that's closed and really has no intention of opening in the next 60 days. It's also predicated on payroll, which most of my employees are bartenders or they don't make that much money. So the amount of the loan, while it's great and the forgivable amount, if I can fit the requirements, will be much appreciated. The 25% that goes to my bills and my rent won't even cover my rent. My rent exceeds that. So it's once again a Band-Aid on a much larger wound. But we're taking what we can get, and there's a lot of hopefully people trying to work to change those requirements, and Sean will speak on that much better than I can, much more eloquently. But we, are doing small little things, like we did the Jay Kelly poster, and we've got a shit ton of publicity about it, which I'm super appreciative of. And we've sold, I don't even know, I haven't counted lately, but we're probably close to 900. I've split that between 17 employees, gone directly to them. We're selling more merch than I've ever sold in my life. But it's phenomenal, and people are so generous. And some woman the other day bought like $250 worth of gift certificates. So I emailed her back and said, hey, do you want 10, 25 or 250? She's like, I never intend to use it. Just take it as a donation. So there's so many lovely, amazing people out there, and I cannot thank them enough. And while that is phenomenal, in the long run, t-shirts and posters are not going to pay my rent for 9 months. But it's something, and keep them coming, and support everybody. Like everybody's doing little things, and the best thing we could do for each other in this community is share what we're all doing, because it's beneficial for us all to still be in business. There is no competition anymore as far as I'm concerned.
Sean, what have you found has been your experience with this funding?
We've applied for everything we can apply for. So we got our PPP loan, and we've got the same issues that Kathy is facing, in that it doesn't make sense for us to be open. In the same breath, for people we're making, if you're working part-time hours as a bartender, it doesn't make sense for us to offer you your job back, because that just puts you in a worse position relative to now. So that's the PPP, and that's that's why we put a lot of effort into trying to get the rules changed about it so we could use it in ways that will let us come back. But we applied for the economic injury disaster loan. That was one of the SBA programs. We did that the minute we were allowed to, and we only got word back Sunday night that we might be getting some money through that. We applied with the city of Cleveland. We got word that that may hit, but probably won't hit till the end of June. And that's a great program. It's not a big program, but I know they've got a couple of other programs that they want to bring online. We applied for the grant program through the county. I mean, our days are taken up with finding all of these programs, and all of these programs are first come, first serve. So, we're all pretty community focused, lift everybody up kind of people. And then it feels like you're getting thrown into this Hunger Games situation where you have to drop everything as soon as you find out that some money's available somewhere and get your application in. And then as soon as you get that in, then you pick up the phone and call everybody and say, hey, this is available. I just got mine in, get yours in. So, it's an uncomfortable spot to be in. And then as far as, it was great. Oregon Space Trail of Doom did something for Happy Dog and Winchester for the staff at both. And then we've got a big trivia event coming up that, Rachel, you're a big part of, which is great. We've kind of taken the approach that any of the fundraisers, really, we're focused on staff, because we're going to fight as hard as we can to get help for the business through whatever programs we can. And, if those programs don't come through, none of us are going to make it, no matter how much people are generous with us. So we've kind of said, let's take care of the staff and let's fight for what we can fight for. And then, once we see how things shake out, if we need to come to the community and say, help us out, we'll do it. But right now, take care of the staff.
Yeah, I can't imagine the additional stress of this situation is a lot. So I thank you all so much for, trying to do everything that you can do to come out on the other side of this. One of the things that both Kathy and Sean, that you both have become very active in, is the National Independent Venues Association. So
Yep.
So NIVA or NIVA. Gabe, is the Bop Stop also a part of one of those venues that has signed up to work with NIVA?
Yeah, we are part of that. And Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, because the Cleveland Music Club Coalition already existed, kind of made that a pretty easy process for me to join. And there'd already been some local level of what's the word?
Like
organizing. That kind of
Advocacy.
it just eased the entire process, and I feel like even other parts of NIVA are looking on little Cleveland, Ohio, because we're having a pretty strong team effort here.
Right. There's a lot of venues in Northeast Ohio that have signed up to be a part of this kind of alliance or this association. So my next question is, I would love for you guys to elaborate a little bit more on what that is, NIVA, and also to talk about the assistance that they're kind of providing. So all of you have been really active with them. I know, the Winchester, as well as, Beachland Ballroom and Tavern, and a lot of our other venues up here, Mayhall's in Northeast Ohio have signed up for this. So tell people a little bit more about what it is. Sean, if you want to kind of address this question, you totally can.
So NEVA only really came into existence in the last 6 weeks. And it was an outgrowth of something called Independent Venue Week, which was a movement that started probably 2-3 years ago, and it was following on work that was happening over in the UK. The UK has the Music Venue Trust and the Music Venue Alliance, because they were seeing a lot of their independent venues going away. Because of noise complaints, because of increases in real estate prices, and because nobody makes any money doing this anyway. It's all labor above. So pretty quickly, once we passed the shutdown March 15th, more and more people started calling in to what was this Independent Venue Week call, and just decided to call ourselves National Independent Venue Association. I think at the time they decided to make that call, there were 450 clubs across the country who were members, and Bop Stop, Grog Shop, Beachland, Happy Dog were all in that initial 450. Since then, it's grown to over 1,600 clubs nationally, and I know there are over 50 clubs in Ohio and a couple of dozen in Northeast Ohio. So all of NEVA's efforts, aside from just being sounding boards, being able to talk to other people in other cities who are in the same position, the big effort that at least I've been focused on is the lobbying effort, because NEVA had a couple of big donors who were able to hire Aiken Gump, a DC-based lobbying firm and law firm. And they've been advising NEVA, and we've been working with them, and they tell us this grassroots campaign that we're doing is kind of blowing them away. The clubs have all asked people to write to their congressional reps and senators, and as of yesterday, over 400,000 messages had gone to members of Congress. I think almost 100 Congress people signed on to the letter in support of what NEVA was asking for, and the letter in the Senate is still open. I think last count, 37 senators that signed on board. So all of that effort by all the people who were responding to the emails we sent, or the Facebook posts, or Instagram posts and tweets and all that stuff, has been a huge help. But that's kind of where NEVA is right now. It's trade association. There's no funding for any of the members. It's all just about advocacy right now.
It's so funny that the lobbying group, is like blown away by it. But, really, like, individually, you all have so much influence, right? I mean, everybody, you see so many hundreds of thousands of people every year in this city, the people that live in this city, that, it really has been a great opportunity to network and to ask your supporters for help in a way that's not monetary, but is more sort of for advocacy. So tell us a little bit more about what NEVA kind of wants people to do and the steps that they've laid out to make that possible for people easily.
Sure. Their campaign is called Save Our Stages. They use the hashtag Save Our Stages, and saveourstages.com is the easiest way to reach your representatives. If you go to that site and you plug in your name and your address, it'll pre-populate the letters to your congressperson, and in our case to both of our senators. So that's the easiest way to do it. Any in terms of calls people make or emails that they draft, I know is having an impact. I've been on emails with Senator Portman's office for the last week, and they're making it clear that the more stories they hear about the venues and about the impact on the venues, but also the role of the venues in our local economy. I mean, you look at the Waterloo Arts District and the Beachlands driving 80,000 people a year there. Coventry Village, without all of the people coming to the Grog Shop, is not Coventry Village. And Gordon Square, we're driving 70,000 people a year there, and I'm sure same for Gabe over at Hingetown. So we're making that case, and what's nice is because we've been doing the work all along, people are really generous about stepping up and speaking up for us.
What types of aid or even just awareness is Vivo really trying to see from our council people? Like in a perfect world where your concerns are heard and they really want to meet independent music venues' needs, what does the ultimate outcome kind of look like?
I think the primary one is they're focused on the people. And with the PPP, what they'd really like is, instead of it being based on 2 months, based on 6 months, and change the rules about how the money can be used and when it can be repaid. I know there's also some tax stuff related to refunding of tickets. That's not really a Happy Dog issue. I defer to people who are not charging $5 at the door on that one. But then the other stuff is making sure that we get a vaccine, and that money goes towards making it safe for people to feel comfortable going out.
Right, and I would even assume too, just addressing it in a way that thinking about the large gatherings again, and as far as how we're talking about it as well. I'm sure a lot of these politicians are also are appreciating some of the help and resources that this organization is providing. So I know that right now that you can go on their website and kind of just sign up for that email, that blast to be sent out. So we'll provide that on our Live from Cleveland page. Have you guys heard of any kind of outcome from it? You said, Sean, that you kind of heard back a little bit from some of the council people, but does it seem like you're getting support from their local politicians with this initiative?
Yeah. In Congress, Marcia Fudge and Marcy Kaptur and Tim Ryan all signed on in support of the asks. And then I think one of the congressmen from down by Dayton, Mike Turner, also indicated he'd be interested in supporting. And Senator Sherrod Brown has already signed on to the letter. Senator Portman's pretty sympathetic to us as small businesses. So we've gotten good indications there. I think some of the next steps are going to be working more local government, and that's maybe something I think both Gabe and Kathy are kind of involved in, an initiative where Cleveland's one of the pilot cities for this initiative called Reopen Every Venue Safely.
I would definitely love to hear a little bit more about that, because that was not something that I was aware of prior to this interview. So please, definitely tell me a little bit more about that. Kathy or Gabe or whoever wants to elaborate on it.
So Cleveland is one of 8 cities that's been selected as a pilot city for this Reopen Every Venue Safely initiative. And there's so much gray area with venues. It's like some of us are bars, restaurants, others are, solely entertainment. And this, as each state has its own laws kind of surrounding the phasing back in of restaurants and clubs and music, seems like those of us who are not in the first economy to reopen can kind of learn from those people. So it is a very new initiative. So there's only been one phone call so far for all of us here in Cleveland. But the idea is to learn from the cities that are a little bit ahead of us and come up with a game plan to reopen our venues safely. And we all want live music to return, but we obviously need to make sure that we're safe about it and that we don't have a second spike and have to close again. So we don't have, like, at this moment in time, we don't have like the reopen your venue safely manual, but we can come up with these kind of best practices that allow us to open safely and efficiently. It's something that as states come online with entertainment, we can share those resources and make sure that at least unilaterally we're all kind of playing by the same playbook, so that we know not only on our personal scale how we're operating in our venue to make our staff safe, but also if these bands are touring from one state to another state, we want to make sure that they don't get COVID and spread it to all of our venues. So it's now thinking of the music economy not just on a small scale, but more of the network that we really are.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I really wanted to bring up too, is that because of the nature of a lot of our venues, especially the Bop Stop and Grog Shop, but I mean also Happy Dog. You guys have a lot of bands that come through. That seems to really be like an extra added difficulty to reopening some of these venues, because you don't even necessarily, so much of it is contingent on travel for these musicians to come in. So, can you talk a little bit about that? I know that when I've talked to people about the reality of reopening venues, a big part of what I say is, a lot of these bands are coming from New York City, or they're coming from LA, or places that are much, much larger in density, right? So what do you think, realistically the chances are going to be of some of those types of groups being able to plan tours and to get back out there in the future? And I would say that's, definitely for all of you. You've all had to try to plan for touring musicians and touring bands.
Well, I think that's a big reason that most of our shows are being pushed to 2021, because my schedule, at least, is based on, do they have a show in Chicago and do they have a show in New York, and where are they going in between? Cleveland is not necessarily their destination, unfortunately. We're just along the trail. So that's pretty much going to dictate my schedule for my national bands. But the safety factors are sort of following the old adage of firewood can't travel from campground to campground, from county to county. Like, if this guy is in Chicago and the guidelines are different, then he's coming to Detroit and Cleveland, and that goes with the Revs kind of philosophy that we have to make sure we're all opening in the same way and in a safe way. But the reality is, I don't think any big tours are going to happen. They just aren't. You're going to get little bands that'll tour in small ways, regionally. Hopefully, we'll get local shows. Half of our shows, especially in the summer and the fall, are routed around festivals. Those are gone. There's no festivals anymore, or we don't say anymore, but not for a while. So my schedule, at least, is going to be very empty for quite some time. And we'll have to reevaluate ways that we can change the way our schedules are, and have to figure out if being open 3 days a week with a local band with 50 people is a viable, financial, does that make sense? Can I employ my employees? Do you want to come back to work, Rachel, to make a third of the money, or stay on unemployment? It's tough for everyone. But I do think the larger problem is the bands are not going to tour for quite some time. minus a handful. It's just not going to happen, and we almost have to face it and figure out ways to move on. So
I was going to ask too, if do you think, and this is like, this is kind of just postulating because at this point we don't really know, but do you think that we could see these kind of secondary markets becoming more pertinent to bands to travel to right now, because we're not the hub of a lot of this infection, and we haven't seen like a massive outbreak like some of these other huger cities have.
It could be a selling point.
Yeah, come here. We shut down early. The right way. We have Mike DeWine.
Tours will happen, but the problem is like the bigger tours and the big money probably won't happen. But maybe you're right. Maybe smaller bands will stick closer to home, and maybe they'll do 2 or 3 nights in one city, which has been a big talk. Residencies where you stay in one place, you have a third of the people show up, but you charge a little more, and musicians want to play music. That's it's their lifeline as well. So hopefully things like that will start happening more and more. I just think it's a little too soon. Everybody's a little too scared right now, unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe.
Definitely. I also wanted to kind of talk about what are some other possible solutions that either you've talked about with the opening venues safely initiative, or perhaps just like spitballing among your staff. I know there's a lot of people out there who would like to see more outdoor shows or perhaps staggered shows throughout the night. So that being said, like, has anybody kind of just tried to discuss some of those options or have thought about any kind of, extra special ideas to make this work?
Well, I can talk a little bit about it. So, yes, no one has, if we all knew the answer of how to make this work, we wouldn't be having this talk. Yes, investigating. All right. So when people started, even before the articles were being shared about the drive-in concerts, that was a concept that I kind of like thought about a little bit. For me, as a very small venue, it did not make sense, but it did get me thinking. You're right. Can we do something outside in our parking lot or in the park next to the Bop Stop? And it's looking like that would be a possibility. And after pooling the people that come to the Bop Stop, most of them still do not feel safe, coming inside. We're a very small venue. My capacity with social distancing would be knocked down from 100 to 28. We could accommodate about 70 in the parking lot. And then if we could use the park, it would be even way, way more than that. So we are looking into that. And then a lot of us, I think, are thinking about reopening our venues in phases. At least that's kind of what I've decided to do is, maybe first do these outdoor shows. And then, we'll do some shows with 28 or 30 people inside, but then also add a streaming component and trying to come up with membership packages to access those streams, because who knows how long it's going to be until we can have decent sized audiences inside. But all of that being said, what's hard, and one of the reasons I think NEVA is important that didn't come up, is that there's no like federal guideline for us to work within. So a lot of us are trying to create these plans just guessing when we can have music back inside our clubs, or like can a law change that allows venues with 300 or less to not be considered an entertainment venue but just a restaurant or bar? Like, can we fall in that category? Because without the framework or of knowing what's legal, what's not, it leaves a lot of guesswork up to those of us who are trying to make our businesses work. And so we're kind of faced with a difficult decision. It's like, I have brainstormed 4 different ways we could potentially reopen based on laws that have or have not been passed yet. So
Right.
we kind of just need information, and that, along with the funding, that's something that I think, reopening every venue safely, or NEVA, these larger national organizations, if they can come up with guidance for us, that would be really helpful.
I think that's like a really, really important point. I actually was watching, I'm pretty sure it was one of the Life kind of Universe and Hot Dogs talks that Case Western, our parent entity at WRUW, actually presented. Happy Dog. They were having a talk about Spanish influenza, right? And somebody had asked the question, like, how helpful at that time was federal government to reopening. And it really, like, kind of makes you think about the country as a whole, especially for these industries that are really relying on there to be some sort of kind of normalized plan for all of this versus state by state, right? So yeah, and the consensus there was, it was 1918. What were you going to do? Send a telegraph, but at this point, it would be realistic to think that perhaps there would be some sort of nationwide guideline.
That can happen.
Sure, right? Upholding our, senators and our Congress people to creating something like that does seem to be very important, specifically for this industry. And Sean and Kathy, like, did you guys kind of think of, ways to reopen, or any sort of phasing? Because that was kind of going to segue into my last question. I know that people really want to kind of have an idea about when we can expect venues to open, especially because, I know at Grog Shop there were still things on the books for August, and I see shows still listed on Mayhall. So, for people who are really, out there, like, twiddling their thumbs, like, waiting for something to happen, what would you tell those people? Like, what can they expect in the future? Do you know?
Sean knows.
We look at it every day, and when we're trying to decide whether we can be open, and this is just on the bar or restaurant side, like, we did the math. It costs us $15,000 a month to be closed, totally closed. It costs us $40,000 a month to be open before we pay anybody and before we buy any food or any liquor to sell, because you got to clean the place, you got to have waste pickup, you got to have linen service, you got to have dish service, you got to have all this stuff, cable TV, all that kind of stuff. So when we're trying to figure out, could we even be open as a bar, restaurant again, we're looking at that stuff, let alone when are we going to be able to actually have people on stage. And anytime we sit there and think about, all right, well, this configuration or that configuration, it all goes out the window, because as soon as a band's on stage, it's not like everybody's going to stand in 6-foot squares spread throughout the building, and we'll have 40 people in a show that we would have had 200 people in. It's not realistic, and we don't have a lot of outdoor options, let alone trying to figure out what that means for your liquor license, because that's how music works. It's not on ticket sales, it's on, that's how the bands get paid, not how we get paid. So I don't know. I mean, our 12th anniversary is August 1st. We would have loved to have had a big show for that. Maybe we could figure out a way to do something outside somewhere for that. But right now, I tune into those Life, the Universe, and Hot Dogs talks because I'm listening to the scientists. Like,
Yeah.
so they say it's okay. It's not going to be okay for enough people for it to work for us.
Right. Yeah. And I think that brings, up a good point as well. And I just want to stress to people, like, for everyone, for restaurants, for venues, like, your business plan is based on having the maximum number of people come out and support these bands and support your business, and not half capacity. Like, that's, your business plan is based on that 400 number, that 200 number, that 150 number, right? So I totally see that that's, very difficult, but I hope that I can still somehow celebrate a Happy Dog anniversary. I would love that, but like you're saying, for like Hot Dog Fest in the past, right? You have to pull all those permits to close the street down, and have open container if you can, and that in and of itself, you are gambling whether or not you would even make that money back, right? Or if that's some sort of added expense to having this kind of stuff outside that will not be recouped. So very difficult.
Yeah. And to be honest, if you do that, and then it's packed, crowded, is that a good thing?
Yeah.
But,
It's not a good,
like town hall.
we know that by now, right?
yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of patios open very safely and successfully this past week, and I applaud them. But they're restaurants that have enough space and they have enough product to sell that they could keep it going. I think as a live music venue, I sell one thing: it's live music. You're not coming to the Grog Shop to socially distance from your friend and sit at a table and sip a drink. It's just not happening. It would be weird, and not listen to music. And we're trying to talk about opening the B-side, but once again, it's like we do our best business when we're packed with a bunch of people dancing and having fun to a DJ. Without the DJ and without the dance floor and without being allowed to be near people, it's just not safe. It's not practical. And it opens us up to problems, quite frankly. I open my doors. My staff could be the best staff in the world. You're going to get 10 people in there that don't know how to act, and it ruins it for everyone. And it's not worth it to sell an extra, whatever, a couple $100 worth of liquor. It's cheaper to be closed. It really is right now, while we can weather the storm for as long as we can weather it. And that's why we hopefully get some funding to keep us going until we can open safely.
Right. Yeah. If I saw, if you see a show with 50 people at the Grog Shop, you would think, not a good show. That didn't.
We're trying.
Right. So we're almost out of time. It's about 8:00. I wanted to just go through each one of you one more time to remind our listeners and people watching the live stream, how they can support you all best right now, each of your venues. So I would just state the name of your venue one more time and kind of let people know, like, if they want to make a donation or they want to buy gift cards, or maybe some fundraising events that you have planned coming up, what people can look forward to that is set in stone right now that we know about. So Gabe, if you want to start, and then Kathy and Sean.
All right. It's Gabe from the Bop Stop. If you're curious about learning more about us, our website currently is themusicsettlement.org, but we are working on a new website since we have the time now. But I would say, feel free to make a donation. But I know everyone on this call would say the same thing. And in Sean's comment about supporting our staff, we care. We're all in this because we love our musicians. So I am going to speak on behalf of all of us, but think about just, buying music from your favorite artists, discover new music. You can look at our calendars to discover new music, but definitely take care of the people that enjoy playing in front of you. That's really, I think, my main concern at this point.
So I'm Kathy from the Grog Shop. You can go to grogshop.gs. We have posters and merch and all sorts of crap for sale. Go to saveourstages.com, support that. and I'm not going to remember the name of the website, but somebody will save me. But there's the initiative that the Beachland started, which is freaking awesome, that Cindy did, which is a grant that goes to local musicians, and we should all contribute to it or share it. Rachel will save me.
It's the Northeast Ohio, I think, musicians fund or that. What is it, Sean?
Yeah. Northeast Ohio.
We're not prepared.
I just can't remember. I know they were using the IOB platform for a while. We did talk to Cindy a couple of weeks ago when they were still just beginning fundraising for that. And so I know through IOB.org.
There's someone for that. And then there's
it's a musicians relief fund, Northeast Ohio Musicians Relief Fund. Yeah.
So that's a good way to get money that will go to musicians. And there's so many people that are doing like little local podcasts. Sean Brewster does his thing every morning. You know, you guys, there's so many ways to support. Just try and do that is what I would say. And if you want to buy a Grog t-shirt, go for it.
Yeah, and you guys are also doing some live stream performances. So I definitely want to thank Tropidelic because they did a really wonderful one for the Grog Shop.
Thank you, Rachel. We have more coming up, but I can't announce them yet.
Yes. So I would say too, if you're looking for more information about that, to follow Grog Shop on Facebook, just so that you're always aware of what's going on. All right, sorry. Okay, and then Sean,
we're so professional.
What stuff does Happy Dog have coming up?
Well, we've got trivia coming up. I think June 1st. Thank you. Save me there. I think we've already got. I was talking to Tony earlier today. We've already got at least 15 teams signed up. So that's going to be a lot of fun and hopefully raise a lot of money for the staff. We're doing the Life, the Universe, and Hot Dogs lectures. Actually, they're doing them 3 times a week now, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights. We're still doing Happy Dog Takes on the World, thanks to the City Club. So I guess tune into our Facebook page for that. And hopefully we're going to be doing some shows come June. Just to echo what Kathy and Gabe were saying, support the folks who make the music and who bring you the music. You know, the fundraisers for the staff at the Grog Shop and the musicians refund, the trivia for Happy Dog staff. They're the ones we got to take care of.
Awesome.
I want to do
it. One more time?
I said in WRUW.
Oh, yeah. I definitely, guys, everybody, I want to thank so much for doing this kind of roundtable discussion with us. This was definitely something that we hadn't talked about yet on Live from Cleveland, but is definitely a huge puzzle piece to the local music scene and kind of being aware of what's going on around us. So thank you so much, Gabe, Kathy, and Sean. Thank you, Isaac, our technical director, who helped me sign on today. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody who was watching live on Facebook or our YouTube. You can also watch the episode in its entirety. If you missed any part of this or tuned in halfway through, please, check back on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. You can rewatch there, as well as we will be rebroadcasting this interview tomorrow during our Live from Cleveland radio program, which takes place 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on WRUW-FM 91.1 Cleveland. So thank you guys so much. And I just want to say bye to everybody watching at home. We're going to sign off.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks.